Welcome to the Coach Toolbox. Here you will find just-in-time learning to support your development as an executive coach. Whether you're a leader coaching internal stakeholders or a professional executive coach, these podcasts will help you develop coaching mastery. These sessions are grounded in evidence-based research and shaped by our own practice as executive coaches over the last 2 decades. You will move towards mastery as you learn the knowledge and how to apply it in your practice. And now, our session today. Hello. Welcome to this episode on preparing yourself and your parents or elders for old age, part 1. In the next 2 episodes, we are going to talk about preparing for old age, not only for ourselves, but especially for our parents, parents-in-law, or any other elder in the family that you have responsibility for. These episodes are relevant at multiple levels. First of all, for you and your spouse as individuals and as a couple, and then for the elders that you have the responsibility to look after. In this episode, which is part 1, we will focus on you. And in part 2, we'll focus on caring for the elders in your family. In addition to preparing ourselves, this episode will also give you insights and actions that you can take to support your coaching clients who might need to think about these issues for themselves and for their own elders. One caveat before we start. This is an emotionally charged issue. It's an emotionally charged issue for all of us because it has old age involved, it has parents involved, it has elders involved, it has siblings involved, family dynamics involved. So it's complex and it's so difficult to talk about. Now, when it comes to looking after or managing elders in the family, there is a large spectrum. At the happy end is where the elders are hale and hearty, mobile, socially engaged, have hobbies, friends, work, and so on. And most importantly, they have a positive, realistic, and grateful outlook to where they are in life. At the other end of the spectrum, the elder may not be mobile, struggling with an illness or medical condition, bedridden, battling mental issues such as dementia or Alzheimer's, or is alone, does not have social connections or something to do, and is feeling bitter, cynical, helpless, or hopeless. And if you have an elder like this in your family, I know what you're going through because I have dealt with my own mother's last few years, which are so similar to this situation that I just described. So it's a wide spectrum, and each point in the spectrum has its unique challenges. And the reality is that an elder can move gradually from one end of the spectrum to the other. And as they move, you, the caregiver, have to move too. So let's start talking about it, you and I. And please feel free to share on email your experiences, coping strategies, and anything else that will be helpful so that I can weave it into future episodes. So point number 1, old age happens. Whether you like it or not, whether you're prepared or not, it's happening. As a matter of fact, right now, as you're listening, as you and I are talking, it's happening to both of us right now. If you're in your 30s or 40s, you may believe that you're far from it, you don't have to worry about its impact right now. Well, think again. And if you're ending your 30s and entering the 40s, well, start thinking bloody quickly. Your parents are there already, and it's possible that you're struggling with its implications even now. So we'll talk about that a little later. The good news as we plan for old age for you is that productive life expectancy is increasing, and with some planning and preparation that needs to start now, you can continue to have a satisfying life well into your golden years. Here are some pointers from research to help you and perhaps your parents too to think about this issue and to start talking about this issue. And one of the greatest challenges you're going to have if you have siblings is to engage your siblings to talk as a family about managing parents and elders. You will find that it is something most of us as a family are scared to do. So, coming back to the research clearly demonstrates that optimism has a significant influence on an older adult's health and well-being. Optimism in this case is defined as a general positive attitude about the future and a tendency to anticipate favorable outcomes in life situations. In other words, a generally positive outlook to life. Additional studies show that it contributes to successful adjustment and recovery from disease, increased survival, better quality of life, and less distress when making health-related decisions. But how does one develop or coach or get coached around optimism for old age? Simple. Here is the solution. Plan for old age. Plan for old age. Plan both for you, your spouse, and the elders in your care. The research term for this process is called PFC, or Preparation for Future Care. And this includes planning for the social aspects, planning for the medical aspects, and planning for long-term care. So planning is the key, and planning right now. This planning includes issues such as where you will stay when you are older or when you are retired, where both your husband and wife will stay. What will be your income streams? How will you manage health? How will you plan for ill health or disability, either for you or for your spouse or for both of you? How will you cope in old age in terms of logistics? And even more scary, when there is the loss of one partner. How will you manage social connections? What plan will you have to stay engaged socially? Having purpose-driven activities that will meet your interests and that will meet your lifestyle, and so on. This requires planning, and it requires you to plan now while you're in the peak of health, while you're in the peak of fitness, while you're in the peak of your career. Saying that my children will look after me may not be such a wise option in today's time. Now, this might seem like scary stuff or something that is too far away to plan for. But being wise means starting to have these conversations around these issues, especially with your spouse, maybe with your siblings, with elders, and even your children. So step one, just start talking about it. Why? Because once again, research studies show that older adults who have prepared for the future report greater satisfaction in later years. They are able to integrate behaviors such as exercise, and they report lower rates and severity of depression and anxiety in their later years. These adults who have high levels of awareness, who have planned earlier, worry less, report fewer depression symptoms than adults with no concrete plans. Therefore, step one, start talking about future care. For example, over the last few years, my wife and I have talked about old age retirement for the both of us. Things like where will we stay? How will we prepare our home to be elder friendly, financial planning, health management, and even more serious issues like what to do if one of us is disabled or needs full-time hospice care, and then even more sensitive issues such as end-of-life options, such as not being put on a ventilator. We're even making changes to our home to make it elderly proof for ourselves, such as putting guardrails in the bathroom shower to minimize the risk of slipping. We may not need it today, but we will certainly need it at a point in time. And so start talking about these things Even if you talk about it in perhaps not so serious a tone, the goal is to start talking about it so that it doesn't become such a taboo subject. One helpful tool that we have found for you to plan and share with your family, and especially your spouse, is to make a living will. I don't have time to talk about this today, but do a little bit of Google research on making a living will. You'll find it extremely helpful. Now, be aware that the moment you want to initiate such conversations with your spouse or siblings or even the elders in your family, it will be very, very hard to do. These are very sensitive subjects and nobody really wants to talk about it, especially when things are going well. You'll hear statements such as, "Oh, we'll cross that bridge when it comes," or "nothing will happen to my parents because they are so healthy and fit," or "nothing will happen to my spouse," or "let my other siblings worry about that," or "my parents are very independent. I don't have the time right now. I have immediate fires to burn. My career is already so stressful. We'll look at it when it comes. Why talk about these things?" The reality is that old age happens for all of us, and unexpected events and complications can happen to any of us at any time. And it's not linked to being fit or not fit at any point in time. So, therefore, not being prepared for these events can put a lot of pressure on you, your relationships, and your lifestyle. For example, and I don't mean to spoil your mood for the day, what happens if one parent passes on? Will the surviving parent move in with you? Is this their expectation? What impact will this have on your family dynamics and existing lifestyle? What happens if this parent then goes through emotional, physical, or medical difficulties? Will you still be able to travel, focus on your career? Will your spouse be able or want to take up this responsibility? These are difficult questions indeed, and there are no easy answers. Therefore, it's best to start thinking and talking about it from now itself. Start talking to your spouse. That's a good place to start. And depending on the relationships you might have with your siblings, initiate these discussions with your siblings. Perhaps the first 1 or 2 times, everybody would be hesitant because they are scared, they are resistant. Nobody wants to talk about it. But as you're comfortable, as you make it something that's safe to talk about, you will find that people will respond. And this episode focuses on planning for old age for you at the individual level. So the first step was to start thinking and planning about it and starting to talk about it. The next and most important step that I encourage you, I strongly urge you, I even beg you to implement this action in this week itself. And the action is to get a complete health checkup. Get your blood work done. I know you did it last year or 2 years ago and absolutely things were fine. I know you feel absolutely fit and you're doing so well. But then why worry? Do a complete heart checkup too. And if you've kissed 40, then things like HbA1c, the 3-month sugar test for diabetes, get your blood pressure, lipid profile, thyroid, all these things need to get checked. And they're so economical. Guys will come to your doorstep now and do it all for you. Take those results, work with your family doctor, see if he or she needs you to do anything else, but get it done. You measure the metrics in your projects, you measure the metrics in your company. Why would you not measure these metrics for yourself? Why would you not measure this for your spouse? Why would you not measure this for your parents and elders? It's important for you to measure these metrics and consult with your doctor on these metrics. Better to do it today. God forbid there is anything wrong, but if there is something that requires action, it's better to start today so that it just prevents complications, and so many things can be taken care of if caught well in time. So the second action is to get a complete health checkup for yourself. Linked to this step is action set number 3. And I know you're busy. I know you have crazy stress at work. I know between commute and office, you have and managing work and family, you have absolutely no time left. But here's the key. You need to build in some exercise and self-care activities in your schedule. Even if it is simple things like doing a brisk walk during lunch break or evening or morning for 30 to 40 minutes, you'll be ahead. Let's talk a little bit more about health and wellness for busy folks such as yourself in coming episodes. But building in exercise and self-care activities is certainly one of the best investments you will make right now for your later years. So why not start now itself? All right, let's bring this episode to a close. You and I have talked about the importance of preparing for old age. Today, we have looked at why it's important for us to do so and how to start the process by talking about it with our significant other and family members, getting a full health checkup done, and starting an exercise and self-care plan today. In the next episode, part 2, we'll talk about caring for elders. So don't forget to join us for that. Oh, I'd love to hear about your own experiences and tips that you'd like to share so that I can weave them into our future episodes. Bye for now. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Commit to your professional development by subscribing to this channel. Check out the resources and the details of our ICF approved coach training programs on www.globalcoachtrust.org. We'd love to hear from you. Email us on coachtoolbox@gmail.com. We look forward to meeting you in our next session.